Hi everyone and welcome to Inderes TV. Today we're going to talk about Sampo with Analyst Sauli Vilén. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about the Q4.
Yes.
And Sampo's Q4 was somewhat better than expected. What were the drivers behind this?
Well, the top line was actually good in line with what market and us were expecting. But then the slight beat came from actually on the underwriting result. The weather-related claims, which means the storms and etc., were actually a tad smaller than anticipated, even though we knew that there were storms in the Nordics in the Q4. So yeah, nothing major there, basically.
Okay. So where does Sampo's growth come from now and in the future?
Well, now or during the past few years, there has been two drivers for the growth. First, most importantly, the Nordics, it has been the claims inflation. So basically price hikes is the right word on that. And of course, in the UK, Sampo has been able to grow market share and of course hike prices. But so UK and the claims inflation / price hikes in the Nordics. Over the long term, in the Nordics, the insurance market grows roughly the pace of the GDP. Yeah. That's it. Of course, there is always some pockets to grow, for example, in health insurance, etc. But Sampo is in good position to capture those. But then again, the market is really competitive in the Nordics also. The winning market shares systematically is really difficult and probably really expensive also. So in that sense, in the Nordics, it is fair to assume that Sampo will grow roughly at the pace of the GDP or tad higher, but not like some same pace. But Sampo has been growing during the past years because the past years the claims inflation has been abnormally high. But then we have the UK, which is obviously a growth market in the long term for Sampo.
Yeah, in the long term it's a growth market, but at the moment there are some problems there. So and it has been more challenging than expected. So what's the problem at the moment there?
I wouldn't call it a problem, to be honest. It's just a way more difficult market than the Nordics. The Nordic market is insanely good market. It's constantly really rational, etc. In the UK, the market is just very, very competitive and it is much more cyclical. When Sampo originally bought Hastings, we had a clear slump in the market. Then we had several good years, actually really good years in the market. And now, again, we are in a more tough market. So it's just a normal market cycle, and which is just a feature of the UK market. So in that sense, it's not a problem. But then again, what I want to highlight about this cycle is that it seems that right now the market, even though it's much more tight or competitive, it's still more rational. Okay. Like before, like during the last cycle, like maybe 4 years ago or something, the market was even more fierce, and you could say the pricing was irrational in that sense that some players actually are loss making, etc. Okay. So now the market seems a tad more rational, which is actually a good thing for Sampo. This might have something to do with the fact that the market has been consolidating recent years and there has been private equity buyers in some of the companies, and of course they have more incentive to make good business in that sense. But so nothing dramatic there. It's just
it's cyclical.
It's a cyclical. It's just a more cyclical business than in the Nordics. But there is zero reason to expect that this would last like forever, or so this will last some time, and then the market, will again be more or less competitive for some time. Okay. And then Sampo will obviously push metal to the pedal, so to speak. Right now, Sampo is more in the defensive stance, trying to protect the profitability and not try to push growth because the pricing is just too tight. But when it eases, then Sampo will move forward again, which is actually definitely the right strategy here.
Okay. So Sampo also updated their dividend distribution policy. Could you open up a bit more about that?
Yeah, the whole payout policy actually was updated. the big picture is that they will pay roughly 90% of the continuous earnings out. It will be divided like that. Roughly 60% will be the dividend. Dividend will grow steadily. I have used to say that the dividend is, you can say, sacred for them, and it is. They want to grow it no matter what. Yes, they added a disclaimer that in some super bad year we may keep the dividend at the previous year level, but I mean the whole point is with the 60% payout ratio is that you have a lot of room to grow dividend even in the more difficult times. But yes, that's the dividend part. And then what they actually changed was they made buybacks more systemic part of the payout policy. Recent years when Sampo has been moving from the financial conglomerate to pure play insurance player, and there has been a lot of asset sales, etc. The buybacks has been like whenever they have excess capital, they will use it to buybacks. Now they say that buybacks will be like a systematic way, and basically the rest, from the 90%, you use 60% or give or take for the dividend, and the 30% or so will be used on the buybacks. So buybacks will be a feature in the future. So basically, you should expect buybacks every single year going forward here. And of course, buybacks are if for some reason Sampo gets excess capital, for example, this year they will definitely get some from the Nova sale, Nova exit from the Nova, they will use it on the buybacks. And on the let's say on the other end of the spectrum, if you have a really bad year some year, then the dividends goes first, and then if there is not more capital, then they will not do buybacks on that year. So buybacks is the one which fluctuates there. But it's a good update. I mean it's much more simpler now. We don't have to guess how much the buybacks are and what they will do, or will they do some extraordinary dividends or something. Now it's crystal clear in that sense.
Okay, so that's a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about the guidance forward? You wrote that it was somewhat a disappointment. Could you elaborate?
Yes, the top line guidance was exactly what expected, but on the underwriting result, which is the most important number on the Sampo's figures, since of course the underwriting result is the most lucrative part of the cash flow coming from the insurance business. Sampo is guiding underwriting profit to grow 0 to 8%, which is below what consensus was expecting. I mean, yes, it is a tad disappointing comparing to consensus figures, but you have to take into consideration that the situation in the UK, as described before, is actually really difficult at the moment. And I mean, in the UK, it's really difficult to grow profits this year, and thereby actually you don't get any tailwind from the UK on that equation. Then at the same time in the Nordics, 25 was extremely good year, even though you have had some storms in the Q4. Overall, the 25 was, you could say, almost too good of a year in that sense. So thereby there is a slight catch up to do also in the Nordics, when in especially industrial side the combined ratios should elevate more towards the normalized levels. So in that sense, but the big picture is still that there is nothing to worry about. This is not the end of the Sampo's underwriting growth. That's the point. It just, that just the tough comparison figures plus the situation in UK, those will lead to a situation that, the underwriting growth will be more modest this year than it has been in the past years. But over the long term, there is still a good path for underwriting profit to grow. Of course, you have the top-down market synergies rolling in. Then, of course, at some point, Hastings will get back to the growth mode, etc. So yeah.
So nothing to worry about.
Yeah, nothing to worry about. Even though it was a tad disappointing.
Yeah. So what about valuation and recommendation?
Well, valuation stock surprisingly is not cheap. It's fairly valued, as it has been a fairly long time, to be honest. But at the same time, you have strong dividend yield there. You have good EPS growth track in front of you. So when you combine these with the neutralish valuation, you still get attracting enough risk reward ratio. So we maintained our 10 euro target price, and well, just before the result we switched to accumulate since the share had dipped a bit. So
recommendation. Thank you, Sauli, for all these comments. And if you want to know more about Sampo, go to inderes.se. And if you have more questions to Sauli, you can join our forum. Thank you.